The hum of the Odyssey's engines was a familiar song to Captain J. On the main screen, the cold gray sphere of Pluto hung in the blackness, a lonely sentinel at the edge of everything they knew. This was supposed to be a simple final test, a short jump using their new fold space drive just outside the solar system. A quick victory lap before heading home to Earth for debriefing and Jay hoped a long vacation. Drive is primed and ready. Captain, said Su-min from the pilot's seat, her fingers dancing over the console with a relaxed confidence. Coordinates locked. A nice, boring 5-light-year hop into the void and back. Boring is good, Jay replied, taking a sip of lukewarm coffee. Let's get our data and go home. Engineer Min, final systems check? From the engineering station, Min gave a thumbs up without looking up from his displays. All green. The drive is humming like a happy bee. No weird energy fluctuations. It's perfect. Perfect. Jay allowed himself a small smile. The project had taken a decade. The drive wasn't like the old, slow FTL systems. It folded space, bringing two distant points together for an instant. In theory, it was almost instantaneous travel. This was the final proof. Initiate the jump, Su-min. Initiating, she said, pressing a sequence of keys. The usual jump sensation was a mild lurch. This was different. The ship groaned, a deep metallic sound of protest. The lights flickered and died, replaced by the dim red glow of emergency panels. Alarms screamed from every station. On the main viewer, the stars didn't just streak. They shattered into brilliant, painful lines of light before collapsing into a swirling vortex of impossible colors. What is happening? Jay yelled, gripping his chair as gravity seemed to pull in 3 directions at once. The drive. It's not stopping. Min shouted, his hands flying over his console. It's creating a feedback loop. We're caught in a subspace tier. Can we shut it down? Trying. The safeties aren't responding. The ship shuddered violently. Jay felt his stomach lurch. There was a sound like the universe tearing its seams. A silent, profound pop felt in the bones more than heard. Then sudden, terrible calm. The alarms cut off. The lights returned to normal. The violent shaking stopped. On the main screen, the swirling vortex was gone. In its place was a field of stars, dense and bright, and the massive, glowing curve of a gas giant with swirling pink and orange bands. And directly in front of them, so close their proximity alerts finally woke up with a gentle ping, was a ship. It was not a human ship. It was a dagger of dark metal, covered in intricate glowing runes that pulsed with a menacing purple light. It bristled with what were unmistakably weapon ports. Behind it, another, and another. A dozen of these dagger ships surrounded them in a perfect, intimidating formation. In the distance, silhouetted against the gas giant, was a colossal structure, a ring-shaped station the size of a small moon. For a long moment, there was only stunned silence on the Odyssey's bridge. Su-min broke it first. Well, she said, her voice flat. Those aren't ours. Min was already scanning. Massive energy signatures from all vessels. Their power output is astronomical. That ring station is reading as a dock, shipyard, and city all in one. We are very, very far from Pluto. Jay took a deep breath, pushing down the initial spike of shock. Panic was useless. They were here, wherever here was. Damage report, he said, his voice steady. Minimal, Min reported. Some minor system stress, but the hull held. The fold space drive is offline. It's drained completely. It will need 72 hours minimum to recharge from the main reactor. 72 hours, Jay repeated. He looked at the intimidating fleet on the screen. Okay, Su-min, no sudden moves. Keep us right here. Hannah, Are you at your station? Linguist Hana's voice came over the comm from the communications hub. I am here, Captain. I am detecting a barrage of directed radio, laser, and subspace signals towards us. Multiple frequencies. It seems to be the same message, repeated in. I am counting 12 distinct linguistic structures. None are in our databases. Can you make sense of it? Jay asked, working on it. The repetition suggests a standardized first contact or challenge protocol. The tones are aggressive, declarative. Lots of repeating glyph sounds for surrender, identity, and submit to authority. As Hana spoke, one of the dagger ships, larger than the others, moved forward. A beam of bright blue light lanced out, not at them, but across their bow. A classic hold your position warning shot in any spacefaring culture. They just shot at us, Su Min observed, raising an eyebrow. A warning, Jay said. They want our attention. He felt a strange calm settle over him. The unknown was here, right in their faces. Fear wouldn't help. Procedure would. Hannah, can we send a reply? Audio and visual. I can broadcast on the frequencies they are using, yes. The video will be guesswork, but I can send basic semiotic symbols. Do it. Send the universal symbols for peace and mechanical failure. Then send an audio message in our language. Keep it simple, polite, and untroubled. On the bridge, a light flashed, indicating the transmission was sent. Jay composed himself. He knew they were being watched, analyzed. He leaned slightly towards the comm's pickup, his tone conversational, like he was reporting a minor traffic delay. This is Captain J of the Earth exploratory vessel Odyssey. We have experienced an unplanned spatial displacement. Our faster-than-light drive is inoperative and recharging. We mean no harm in awake communication. Please stand by. He nodded to Hana to cut the transmission. Min looked up from his scans. Their weapons are powering up to what I assume is a higher level. They are scanning us with intense active sensors. They are probably seeing we have minimal shields and only point defense lasers. Let them scan, Jay said. We have nothing to hide but our current inability to leave. Su Min chuckled softly. They look very pointy. The main communication console lit up. A new message, this one video. Hana put it on the secondary screen. A creature appeared. It was humanoid, but tall and slender, with skin the color of polished ash. It wore elaborate armor of overlapping plates, and its eyes were large, solid pools of silver with no visible pupil. It spoke, its voice a series of sharp, clipped tones. Hana's translation software, working furiously, provided a rough subtitle. Unidentified. Vessel, you have violated the sanctum of the Varian Imperial. Core, you are surrounded by the will of Empress Valeria. Power. Down your systems and prepare for boarding. And annihilation. Any resistance will result in the total disintegration of your ship and all biological matter within. You have 10 of your cycles to comply. The message ended. The stern, silver-eyed face vanished. The bridge was quiet again. Jay glanced at his crew. Su Min was checking fuel reserves. Min was monitoring the alien energy signatures, looking more curious than afraid. Hana's voice came back, calm and analytical. The translation is 80% confident. The threat is clear. Cycles likely refers to their base time unit. I am analyzing transmission intervals to calculate its length. How are our vital signs? Jay asked the computer. A display flashed. Heart rates, respiration, neural stress levels, all well within normal parameters for a slightly challenging workday. Jay allowed himself a small, dry smile. Decades of training for deep space emergencies, for surviving the crushing pressure of the ocean or the silent void, had prepared them for many things. It had prepared them to be professional in the face of the unbelievable. A bunch of angry aliens in fancy ships was, in the grand scheme of human troubles, a new one, but not necessarily the worst. "Hana," he said, "send another message. Use their video format if you can. Send the same symbols, but add a simple schematic of a battery recharging. Then send my audio again." He cleared his throat and spoke, his voice the same calm, slightly apologetic tone one might use with a neighbor whose lawn you accidentally mowed over. "We received your message. We repeat, our arrival was an accident. Our drive is disabled and recharging. We are not a threat. We suggest you wait until we can talk properly. Standing by." He leaned back in his chair. The alien fleet, the glowing runes, the massive station, it was all just scenery. The problem was technical, a dead drive and a communication barrier. Everything else was just noise. He took another sip of his coffee. "It was cold now." "Min," Jay said, "give me a countdown on that drive recharge. Su-Min, keep us steady. Henna, keep listening. Let's get to work." Outside, the Varian Imperial fleet waited for the panic, the screams, the desperate attempts to flee or fight. They detected only the low hum of a reactor, the gentle pulse of life support, and a silence from the strange, smooth-hulled ship that felt, to them, deeply and profoundly wrong. The silence on the bridge of the Odyssey stretched for a full minute after Captain Jay's second transmission. The alien fleet hung motionless against the backdrop of the swirling gas giant, their weapon ports glowing with a menacing, silent energy. "They've stopped their active scans," Min reported from his station, "but I'm reading multiple new targeting locks. Different energy types. They're preparing for something." Jay nodded. "They're deciding. Either they blast us now, or they try to figure us out." "Hana, anything new?" "Negative, Captain." Hana's voice came through, focused. "No further comms. The linguistic analysis is refining. Their language is highly structured, with formal and informal modes. Every transmission so far has been in the most imperative, formal command mode. It's not just a language of communication. It's a language of hierarchy and fear." Before Jay could respond, a new signal flashed. It was a tight beam, direct to their main receiver. A single, complex data packet. Hana decoded it swiftly. "It's a docking protocol and a security key. They are instructing us to lower our minimal shields and allow a shuttle to land in our main airlock bay. A liaison commander is coming aboard." "A boarding party," Su-Min said, her hands hovering over the controls. "One shuttle. Small energy signature. No weapons fire," Min confirmed, studying the scan. Jay considered for a moment. They couldn't run. A fight would be short and disastrous. The only path was through. Comply with the docking protocol. Su-Min, guide them in if they need it. Min, meet them at the airlock with a scanner. No weapons. Keep it calm. I'll be there shortly. Hana, monitor everything." In the airlock corridor, the atmosphere was one of routine preparation. Min held a simple engineering tablet, checking the atmospheric equalization. Jay arrived, having changed not into a uniform, but a clean, dark blue jumpsuit with a simple Earth Starfleet patch on the shoulder. He carried nothing. With a series of heavy, resonant clangs, the alien shuttle attached itself to the Odyssey's external hatch. The sounds were unfamiliar, the technology clearly different. The outer door hissed open. There was a pause, then the inner door slid aside. Liaison Commander Kellen stood revealed, and he was an imposing figure. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, his ash-gray skin seeming to absorb the corridor's light. His silver, pupil-less eyes swept over the humans with cold assessment. He was clad in the elaborate, overlapping armor they had seen on screen. engraved with those same glowing purple runes that pulsed softly. Behind him stood 4 armored guards, bulkier, their faces hidden behind helmets, holding long rifle-like devices that hummed with contained power. The air grew colder. Kellen took a deliberate step forward, his movements precise and full of silent threat. He began to speak, his voice the same sharp, clipped tone from the transmission. A small device on his chest provided a translation in a flat, mechanical voice. You stand in the presence of a liaison commander of the Varian Third Fleet, voice of the Empress in this sector. You have trespassed into the sacred core. You will prostrate yourselves and state your origin world for immediate categorization and judgment. He waited, expecting the humans to kneel. To Trumbull.J simply offered a small, polite nod of his head. Commander Kellen, I am Captain J. This is Engineer Min. Welcome aboard the Odyssey. We apologize for the unexpected arrival. Kellen's head tilted slightly. The translation had worked, but the response was all wrong. The lack of prostration was a direct insult. The calm tone was bewildering. Your apologies are meaningless. Your ship is a curiosity. Your technology is primitive. Your lives are forfeit to the Imperial will. You will surrender all data, submit to neural scanning, and then you will be processed. Understood, Jay said, as if acknowledging a slightly unreasonable request from a colleague. However, our primary concern is our disabled drive system. It requires approximately 72 of our hours to recharge. Until then, we are your guests, whether we like it or not. He gestured down the corridor. Would you like to see our bridge? We can talk more comfortably there. Kalan was silent for a long moment. The guards shifted, their weapons raising a fraction of an inch. The liaison commander had boarded 100 ships of conquered species. He had seen terror, defiance, pleading, rage. He had never seen this. A bland invitation to the bridge. He gave a sharp, short nod. You will lead. Your every move is watched. The walk to the bridge was short. Kalai noted the clean, functional, but undecorated corridors. No trophies, no religious icons, no portraits of leaders. Just panels, conduits, and the soft glow of status lights. It was disturbingly simple. On the bridge, Su Min turned from her pilot's seat and gave a brief, professional smile. Hana swiveled in her chair from the comms station and nodded. This is Pilot Su Min and Linguist Hana, Jay introduced. Can we offer you something to drink? We have water, synthetic coffee, tea. Kellen stared. A beverage offer. During an interstellar interdiction. I do not consume the biological products of inferior species. The translator box droned. Suit yourself, Jay said, walking over to a dispenser and getting a cup of coffee for himself. He took a sip. Now, you mentioned neural scanning and processing. I'm afraid we must decline any invasive procedures. But we are happy to provide you with basic information about our home, Earth. It might help clarify this situation. Kellen's patience, a thin veneer at best, began to crack. You do not decline, you obey. You are in the heart of the greatest power the galaxy has ever known. Our ships can shatter worlds. Our armies have extinguished stars to make a point. We are the culmination of 10,000 years of galactic dominance. You should be weeping in despair. His translated voice rose in volume, the flat tone unable to hide the fury and expectation behind the words. The humans listened. Su Min glanced at the readings of the alien ships on her screen. Min observed the energy output of the guards' weapons with scientific curiosity. Hana noted the linguistic shift into what her program now tagged as ritualized threat display. Jay took another sip of his coffee. That sounds very comprehensive, he said, his voice calm. 10,000 years is a long time. Earth has recorded history for about half that, though we've only been in space in a meaningful way for a few centuries. Your military capabilities are impressive. As I said, we have no means to fight and no desire to. We are here by accident. Once our drive is charged, we will leave your space. Would a formal apology to your Empress help? Kellan was utterly still. His silver eyes bored into Jay, searching for any sign of mockery, of hidden technology, of grand deception. He found none. Just a man holding a coffee cup, waiting for a problem to be solved so he could go home. The biological scans from Kellan's own armor confirmed it. No elevated stress hormones, no spike of adrenaline, no neural patterns associated with terror or even heightened alert. The humans were as physiologically calm as if they were discussing maintenance schedules. It was inconceivable. It was a deep personal offense to the natural order of the galaxy as Kellan knew it. A species either bowed or was broken. They did not stand and offer drinks. He turned sharply, his cloak swirling. You will remain on this ship. Do not attempt to transmit. Do not attempt to power any systems beyond life support. A decision on your fate will be made by the Imperial Court. Any deviation will result in your immediate destruction. He strode off the bridge, his guards following. The humans heard the heavy footsteps retreating towards the airlock. Once the alien shuttle had detached, men let out a low breath. Their armor's power cells are something else. I'd love to get a closer look. Their translator is very literal, Hana noted. It misses nuance. The commander was very angry. Su Min brought up an external view. The dagger ships had moved back, forming a wider perimeter. They're giving us space, but the big guns are still pointed right at us. Jay placed his empty coffee cup in a recycler. Good. That means they're thinking. They're not sure what to do with us. That gives us time. He looked at the countdown on the main screen. 68 hours to go. Everyone get some rest. It's been a long day. We'll continue standard ship maintenance and wait. On his command shuttle, speeding back to the flagship, Liaison Commander Kellan filed his preliminary report. His words were chosen with cold precision, but a hint of something unsettled bled through. The species identifies as human, from a world called Earth. Their technology is inconsistent. The method of their arrival is unknown. But their vessel is otherwise simple. Their psychological profile is aberrant. They show zero appropriate deference and no measurable fear response to direct imperial power. They are either masters of biological deception, or their evolutionary path has rendered them incapable of recognizing true authority. They are unbothered. This may represent a unique form of insanity. Recommend extreme caution and further study before termination. Their calm is disruptive. The invitation, when it came, was not a request. It was a directive, delivered in the same flat, translated tones as the threats. The humans of the Odyssey were to be brought to the imperial capital, Ixis Prime, for formal assessment and adjudication. A shuttle would collect them. They could bring nothing. Captain J agreed without argument. It's a chance to communicate, he said to his crew. And it's better than sitting here waiting for them to decide to shoot us. The shuttle sent for them was larger than Kellan's, a sleek, windowless craft of dark metal. Inside, the seats were hard, designed for a different physiology. The journey was smooth and silent. When the doors opened, they were in a vast, echoing hangar within the ring-shaped station. The scale was breathtaking. Ships of bizarre designs moved in orderly lines. Thousands of beings, many resembling Kellan's people, but others wildly different, scurried about, all moving with a rigid, purposeful gait. Their eyes downcast, they were met by a contingent of imperial guards and a new official, a shorter figure in elaborate robes, who introduced himself as the assessor. He did not give a name. You will follow. You will not speak unless questioned. You will observe the decorum of the imperial court. They were led not to a prison, but through the station's interior. It was a city of gleaming obsidian and glowing violet light. Grand statues of fierce-looking beings, presumably past empresses, lined the walkways. Everywhere, hierarchy was on display. Lower caste individuals stepped off the path entirely, bowing their heads until their superiors passed. The air hummed with silent tension and unspoken rules. The humans walked together, looking around with open curiosity. Min pointed discreetly at a power conduit. Fusion, but the magnetic containment is elegant. He whispered Datsu-Min watched the flight patterns in the hangar. Their traffic control is very strict. No deviation at all. Hana listened to the snippets of conversation, her linguist's brain cataloging the formal and informal modes. They use different pronouns for every level of rank, she murmured to Jay. It's a language built for knowing your place. Jay simply observed it all. The grandeur, the fear, the precision. It was impressive in its way, like a complex machine. But it also seemed exhausting. They were brought to a towering archway that led into an immense chamber, the imperial court. The room was a masterpiece of intimidation. A ceiling soared into darkness. The floor was a polished black stone that reflected the dim light. On a dais at the far end, seated on a throne that seemed carved from a single colossal gem, was Empress Valeria. She was taller than Kellen, her skin a paler gray, her silver eyes larger and more depthless. Her regalia glowed with an inner light, and a faint, visible aura of energy shimmered around her. A projection of pure power. Lines of nobles, military officers, and officials stood in perfect rows, utterly still. The air was cold and silent. Assessor led them to a spot on the floor and stopped. He bowed deeply towards the throne. The humans stood. Jay gave a respectful nod of his head. A ripple of muted shock went through the court. The lack of a full bow was an unspeakable breach. Empress Valeria's voice filled the cavernous space without her seeming to speak. It was a sound in the mind, cool and vast. The curiosities from the void. You stand where billions would die for the privilege. Explain why your lives should not be added to that number. Jay took a breath. He spoke clearly, his voice somehow small, yet unwavering in the huge space. Your Majesty, we are explorers. Our arrival in your space was a mechanical accident. We have no hostile intent. We wish only to repair our ship and return home. You speak of home, the Empress's mental voice echoed. A tiny, unknown world. You possess no tribute, offer no obeisance. Your presence is a stain of ignorance upon our perfection. What can you possibly offer the Varian Empire that would spare you? It was a test. The court waited for pleas, for offers of servitude, for terrified promises. Jay thought for a moment. We offer understanding, he said, and the truth of our nature. We are not a threat to you. A noble in the front row, a tall figure in military regalia, stepped forward. Their nature is weakness. Look at them. No aura of command, no psychic imprint of strength. They are empty. Let us demonstrate the price of weakness in our realm. The Empress gave an almost imperceptible nod. From a side chamber, guards hauled a massive, sealed container onto the floor before the dais. With a hiss, it opened. A creature emerged. It was a nightmarish thing, a beast of living shadow and crackling purple bioenergy. It had no clear form, shifting between multiple jagged limbs and a gaping maw. It was a Zeril, a creature native to a conquered world, now bred as a living weapon for demonstrations of power. It fed on fear, growing larger and more violent from it. The courtiers took a synchronized step back, their own auras flickering with apprehension. The beast shrieked, a sound that clawed at the mind and began to pulse with dark light, feeding on the collective dread in the room. It took a step towards the humans, who stood alone in the open space. The Empress watched, her silver eyes fixed on the four small figures. Engineer Min squinted at the creature. He tapped the small data pad he had been allowed to keep for cultural notes. He pulled up a scan function and pointed it at the beast. He studied the readout, his head tilted. It's a coherent energy field stabilizing a semi-gelatinous organic core, he said, his voice conversational, cutting through the creature's psychic shriek. The frequency modulation is interesting. Similar to a project we did back at the Seoul Institute on plasma-based life forms. Unstable, though. The fear feedback loop is inefficient. Wastes a lot of energy on theatrics. Su Min, standing beside him, raised her own wristcom and took a picture. The faint flash was utterly alien in the solemn hall. For the exobiology archive, she explained to a stunned assessor standing nearby, the Z-real beast, sensing no fear from its intended victims, hesitated. Its pulsating light stuttered. It was programmed for a specific reaction terror and was not receiving it. Jay looked from the confused monster to the Empress. Is this part of the assessment? He asked politely. If so, we have observed it. It is a formidable creature. Can it be put away now? We would like to continue discussing how we can peacefully depart. For the first time, Empress Valeria's perfect, unmoving expression changed. A faint, almost microscopic tightening around her eyes. The psychic voice, when it came, was a fraction less certain. You are not afraid. Respectfully, Jay said, we have faced many things. On Earth, we have survived ice ages, global pandemics, and wars that nearly destroyed us. We have learned to look at problems, even frightening ones, and try to understand them. Panic doesn't help. That, he nodded at the now diminishing beast being recaptured by frustrated handlers, is a problem of physics and biology. A loud one, but a problem. The court was dead silent. The entire ritual, designed to break the spirit of any being, had not just failed, it had been dissected like a faulty engine. The human's history, briefly mentioned, was not a list of glorious conquests, but a tale of sheer, stubborn survival. They did not see themselves as masters of the galaxy, but as persistent visitors in a universe full of challenges. To them, the mighty Varian Empire was not an object of awe. It was just another complex, somewhat traumatic situation to navigate. Empress Valeria leaned back on her throne. The aura around her flickered. Take them to the guest quarters, her voice commanded, the psychic tone flat. They will await our decision. As they were led away, the humans did not look relieved or victorious. They simply walked, Hannah noting the architectural details, Min muttering about the Zai-Ril-S energy matrix, Su Min checking the time. They were thinking about their ship, their drive recharge, and the puzzle of Varian social customs. Left behind in the court, a profound unease settled over the assembled might of the Empire. The nobles and officers exchanged glances. The weapon of fear had broken against a wall of calm practicality. Nothing in their 10,000 years of dominance had prepared them for a people who simply refused to be bothered. The guest quarters were a spacious suite of rooms, elegant in a cold, minimalist way. The walls were smooth gray stone, the furniture angular and uninviting. A large window, which was actually a transparent section of the hall, looked out onto the bustling lanes of the ring station and the eternal light of the gas giant beyond. It was a gilded cage. For the humans, it became a base of operations. They were provided with food nutrient pastes that tasted bland but were edible. They were left alone. Captain J knew this was not a kindness. It was a pause while the Empire decided on a permanent solution. The quiet was more dangerous than the shouting. True to their nature, they did not wait idly. Hannah sat by the window, her fingers flying over the surface of her datapad. The pad had been scanned and deemed harmless, a simple recording device. The Empire, for all its power, had little understanding of human software, or of a linguist's focus. Hana was not just taking notes. From the moment they had been brought onto the station, her pad had been passively scanning every data stream it could detect: open network traffic, public information bands, even the low-power signals from passing guards' comms. "It is a society built on layers of secrecy," she said softly, not looking up. "But the lower layers gossip. The soldiers, the maintenance workers. They use simpler codes. I am building a lexicon." Min was at another part of the window, using his multi-tool to carefully unscrew a vent cover. He wasn't trying to escape. He was examining the station's internal systems. Climate control is centralized. Power flows are predictable. Their technology is advanced, but rigid. No redundancy in these service areas. They never expect things to go wrong inside the heart of their power. Su Min stood at the window, watching the traffic patterns. Their flight control is perfect. Too perfect. No room for error. If one ship had a thruster malfunction, it would cause a cascade collision. They control everything to prevent chaos, but they have no plan for chaos itself. Jay listened to them all. He paced the room slowly, his mind working. The display with the Zayril beast had been a turning point. The Empire could not intimidate them. That left only two options: destroy them, or try to understand and possibly use them. The first was more likely. "Our greatest advantage is their confusion," Jay said, stopping. "They don't know what to make of us. But that confusion will not last forever. We need to be ready when it ends." 2 days passed in the strange quiet. They were observed, they knew, by hidden sensors. They acted normally, talking, resting, discussing trivial things about Earth, playing simple word games Hana taught them. They maintained the facade of harmless, unbothered visitors. On the third morning, the quiet broke. Assessor returned, his robe seeming stiffer than before. "The Empress, in her wisdom, has granted you an extraordinary opportunity. You will be integrated for a brief observational period with a low-tier service cohort. You will witness the glory of the Empire from within. Your compliance will be noted." It was another test. To break their spirit not with monsters, but with mundanity and subjugation. They were taken to a different section of the station, a bustling, noisy area full of maintenance workshops and storage bays. They were given simple gray coveralls and assigned to a supervisor, a harried-looking Varian whose aura was dim and patchy. He put them to work organizing cargo manifests here among the ordinary workers. The effect of the humans' calm began to spread, slowly and invisibly. Like a crack in glass dot, the Varian workers moved with tired resignation, flinching when supervisors passed. A supervisor yelled at a worker for a minor error, the psychic shout making the worker cringe. Jay, who was checking a list nearby, looked up. "Excuse me," Jay said, his voice level. "The error is in the database, not his entry. See here? The serial code in the master log has a transposed digit." He pointed it out on the screen. The supervisor, unused to being addressed directly, blinked. He checked. Jay was correct. He glared, but the anger had no target. He stormed off. The worker, a younger Varian with dull silver eyes, stared at Jay. No one had ever intervened. No one ever took a minor blame to spare a lower caste. The concept was alien. Later, during a rest period, the humans sat together, eating their paste. The other workers sat apart, silent. Su Min pulled a small, folded paper from her pocket, a souvenir from Earth, a simple printed photo of a mountain range. She unfolded it, looked at it, and smiled. A female worker nearby, her antennae twitching with curiosity, dared to creep closer. "What is that?" Her translator badge whispered. "It's a place on our world," Su-min said. "A quiet place. Very old. It helps me remember that big things can be peaceful." The worker stared at the image of the unchanging, silent mountains. She had never seen a picture of something not built, not conquered, just existing. She said nothing, but her eyes were wide. Min, meanwhile, was helping a worker struggling with a faulty pallet loader. The man was terrified it would break and he would be punished. Min asked a few questions, then crawled under it. A few moments later, the whining motor smoothed into a quiet hum. "Just a misaligned bearing," Min said, wiping his hands. It was shaking itself apart. "Fixed it." The worker was stunned. "You? You are not a mechanic of this caste. You could be punished for touching it." Min shrugged. The machine was broken. Now it works. That seems more important. These small moments were drops of water. But in a society as dry and rigid as the Varian Empire, each drop left a mark. Whispers began. Stories of the strange, calm beings who were not afraid, who fixed things, who spoke of quiet mountains. The ideas were not of rebellion, but of simple questions. Why are we always afraid? What if a problem is just a problem? The Imperial Council was not blind to this. In a secure chamber, far from the guest quarters and the service bays, the ruling council convened. Hollow displays showed the humans' every move, their physiological readings still showing no stress. "The contamination is subtle, but it is real," said a counselor, his aura flaring with distress. "Their psychological profile is a pathogen. They degrade the foundation of fear that maintains order." "The Empress's demonstration failed," said another, a military official. "They are an anomaly that cannot be assimilated. Every moment they remain, they undermine us." The lower castes are asking questions. Assessor was present. "They have no weapons. Their ship is still disabled, but their mere presence is a weapon we cannot defend against." The head of the council, an ancient Varian with a deep, cracked voice, delivered the verdict. "The experiment is concluded. They are a threat to the cosmic hierarchy. The risk of their influence spreading is too great. They must be erased before their drive recharges. We will not make martyrs of them. Their ship will suffer a catastrophic containment failure upon its next engine activation. It will be an accident, a tragedy of their own primitive technology. Their story will end as a cautionary tale." The orders were signed and encrypted. A specialist team was dispatched to the dock where the Odyssey was held. Their task was subtle: to place a cascade inducer on the ship's power core, keyed to trigger when the fold space drive began its high-energy recharge sequence. It would look like a human engineering mistake. Back in the service bay, Hana's datapad pinged softly, a notification only she could see. Her program had been running continuously, sorting through the ocean of low-level data. It had flagged a new, encrypted transmission. It was short, high priority, and originated from the council chambers. It was directed to the dockmaster's office. The encryption was military grade, but the humans had an advantage. The Empire had given them a translator. To make it function, it had to be compatible with their networks. Hana had spent days using that very connection to quietly map the architecture of the Imperial security protocols. She didn't break the encryption. She traced its path and saw its destination, the Odyssey's birth. Her blood ran cold, but her face remained placid. She closed the pad and walked over to Jay, who was examining a cargo scanner. "Captain," she said, her voice as casual as if she were commenting on the weather, "I believe our ship may require a final systems check before we depart. Sooner rather than later." Jay met her eyes. He saw the slight tension in her jaw, the only sign. He understood immediately. The Empire's patience had run out. The quiet was over. He gave a small nod. "Thank you, Hannah. I agree. He looked at the countdown on his own simple wrist chrono. They had less than 12 hours before the drive was ready. He now knew they didn't have 12 hours. They had until the Empire's sabotage was in place. He gathered Min and Su Min with a glance. The unspoken message passed between them. The time for passive observation was over. It was time to go. The return to their ship was arranged with the same cold formality as everything else. A shuttle carried them from the ring station back to the secure dock where the Odyssey floated, surrounded by its silent guard of dagger ships. The humans said nothing during the trip. They looked out the viewports, their faces calm, but their minds were racing. As they reboarded their ship, the familiar hum of its systems was a welcome sound. The air smelled of recycled oxygen and machine oil. It was home. They moved to the bridge without a word, each taking their stations. Captain J settled into his chair, his hands resting on the arms. Status. Min, J said, his voice low. Drive recharge is at 96%. 4 hours to full capacity. But Hannah's right. I'm reading new, foreign energy signatures attached to the main reactor housing. Very subtle. They're trying to mask it as part of our own systems, but the frequency is all wrong. It's a bomb, probably set to trigger when we draw peak power for the jump. Min's voice was analytical, not fearful. Can you remove it? Su Min asked, her hands already on the pilot's console, running pre-flight checks, not without triggering it or alerting them. It's wired directly into the core monitoring system. The moment it loses signal, it might blow. Jay thought for a moment. The Empire expected them to either panic and run, or to sit and die. They would do neither. Su Min plot a course, not for the edge of their space. That's what they expect. Plot the shortest path back to the coordinates of our arrival. The spatial tier might still have a residual signature. On it, Hana, you have the most difficult job. Open a channel to the Imperial Command frequency. Request a final audience with the Empress. Make it sound polite, but urgent. Hana nodded, her fingers moving. A minute later, she gave a thumbs up. They have accepted. They are patching you through to the throne room. On the main screen, the image of the colossal chamber appeared. Empress Valeria was on her throne, her court arrayed around her. Liaison Commander Kellen stood to one side, his silver eyes cold. The Empress's psychic voice filled the bridge. You have returned to your vessel. Your drive will soon be functional. You will depart our space immediately and never return. These are your terms of survival. Jay leaned forward slightly, his expression one of respectful seriousness. Empress Valeria, thank you for taking our communication. Before we depart, we wish to extend a formal gesture of gratitude and to offer a gift. A ripple of surprise moved through the court. A gift? From a species about to be quietly eliminated? We have no need of your primitive artifacts, the Empress intoned. It is not an artifact, Jay said. It is knowledge. A cultural and scientific exchange packet. It contains the history of our world, our principles of mathematics and physics, our art, our music, a record of who we are. We believe understanding is preferable to mystery. He nodded to Hana, who sent the data burst. It was a genuine packet, containing terabytes of information from Earth's libraries. Your sentiment is noted, the Empress said, her voice dismissive. Now, power your drive and go. Jay did not move. He maintained his calm, direct gaze. There is one more thing, Your Majesty. A matter of transparency. Our ship's navigation and sensor logs have been transmitting a continuous data stream on a secure frequency since the moment we arrived in your space. It is a standard safety protocol for Earth vessels. The location, our sensor readings of your fleet, this station, even our physiological date, it is all being sent to a relay buoy we deployed at the site of our accidental entry. If our ship is destroyed or suffers a mysterious accident, the data will continue transmitting. Our people will receive it. They will know exactly where we were and who we were with. The silence on the throne room was absolute. The Empress's aura flickered violently. Kellen took an involuntary step forward. You dare to threaten the Empire? Kellen's translated voice barked. It is not a threat, Commander, Jay said, his tone shifting to one of mild correction, like a teacher explaining a simple fact. It is a statement of procedure. We are explorers. We prepare for contingencies. If we do not return, other humans will come to investigate. They are, by nature, very curious. And they will be very careful. They will not come with weapons, but with more questions. And they will be just as difficult to frighten as we are. He let the words hang. He was bluffing. There was no buoy, and their FTL comms couldn't penetrate the subspace interference this deep in Imperial space. But he said it with such absolute, untroubled certainty that it carried the weight of truth. To the Varian, whose entire society operated on intimidation, the idea of a species so calmly prepared for death, so unconcernedly promising a wave of more like them, was terrifying in a way weapons could never be. The Empress stared, her mind racing. Destroying them now would not erase the problem. It would only invite more of these unbothered creatures. More questions. More of this corrosive calm. The certainty of the human's delivery made the lie undeniable. Your curiosity, the Empress's voice finally came, slower now, is a disruption we do not currently require. You will take your ship and you will leave. Now, the coordinates of your arrival are being sent to you. You will return there and you will not deviate. Any deviation will be seen as an act of war. Jay gave a single, polite nod. Understood. Thank you for your hospitality. Farewell. The screen went dark. On the bridge, nobody celebrated. They worked. Course received and locked. Su Min said. The foreign device on the reactor is powering down, Min reported, a note of relief in his voice. They're disarming it remotely. All systems are green, Hana confirmed. Take us out, Su Min. Nice and slow. The Odyssey's thrusters fired, pushing it away from the dock. The ring station grew smaller behind them. The dagger ships moved aside, forming a clear corridor. No one fired. No one hailed them. They were watched by thousands of silver eyes, filled with a new and unsettling emotion. Profound relief to see them go. The journey to the coordinates took an hour. Space folded around the point where they had arrived, still tinged with a faint, unnatural energy. Drive is at 100%, Min said. Residual spatial signature is stable, Su Min added. I can try to reverse the jump. Jay took one last look at the view screen, at the impressive, fearful empire they were leaving behind. Do it. Su-Min engaged the fold space drive. There was the same groan, the same shudder, but this time it was controlled, precise. The stars outside blurred and twisted. There was a flash of impossible light, and then there was Pluto. Cold, gray, and beautifully familiar. A collective breath was let out on the bridge. They were home. Send the standard report to Earth Command, Jay said, leaning back. Classify it. First contact initiated. No immediate threat. Further analysis required. Include all of Hana's data. Su Min began plotting a course for Earth. Min started a full diagnostic on the drive, already noting improvements to prevent future tears. Hana compiled her linguistic and cultural observations. Che stood and walked to the small kitchen area. He made 4 cups of coffee. He brought them back to the bridge, handing one to each of his crew. They sat for a moment in comfortable silence, sipping their coffee, looking at the peaceful, empty space on their screens. The gas giant, the dagger ships, The Empress with her psychic voice, it was already receding, becoming a problem they had solved. They were very loud, Su-min remarked after a while. Interesting power systems. Though, Min said, their use of grammatical mood to enforce hierarchy will be a fascinating paper. Hana mused. Che smiled, a small, tired smile. Good work, everyone. Let's go home. The Odyssey turned its nose towards the distant sun. Behind them, the Varian Empire was left in a quiet turmoil. Its unshakable foundations subtly cracked not by force, but by the memory of 4 humans who had, for a short time, been completely and utterly unbothered.